welcome back to Call the Damn Leads, the show by sales professionals for sales professionals. I'm your host, Drew B. Wilson. With more than 2 decades in sales, I've seen it, been through it, heard about it. Now I'm bringing it to you, my favorite people in the world, the sales community. So let's be honest, this is the greatest job on earth. Doesn't matter where you come from, what background, what personality, you can make an amazing life in sales. And today's guest, no stranger, someone I'm super excited to have on the show, Miss Nikki Lindgren. How are you?
Doing well, Drew B. Thanks for having me today.
I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day building amazing e-commerce businesses and brands to be here. So I want to jump right in with your craziest sales story.
Oh, I love this one. So our agency's only been around for about 6 years, or it has been around for 6 years. It depends on who you're talking to, if that's long or short. And early on, I come from paid media and from digital marketing overall for e-commerce brands. So it was just, I know what I'm doing so well and so detailed that I thought in my earlier pitch to one really particular client that was necessary for the business, because we're talking 2020 and the pandemic just hit and I was really needing to close this business. I talked to a client 2 times. And at the end of the second call, while walking him through the deck and everything, he's like, I have no idea what you guys do. And I was just like mind boggled. I was like, I thought it was super clear. But I think in retrospect, I was too much in my own lane of expertise and I wasn't like dumbing down the work we were doing enough. So it was a good early aha moment to be like, how is this guy not tracking? Like, let me rewind the process and see what I did wrong. Ended up, he was a little bit of a wild card, but I think it was still a moment to be like, how do I crystallize this and make it sharper? So, a sales process is always something you can fine tune. So we're still doing it 6 years later, but that was a huge aha moment. Long story short, we ended up closing the business. We worked together for like 2.5 years, so it worked out. But the blunt transparency, second call of just like, I'm still lost, was something I wasn't expecting.
I actually appreciate you sharing that. I had a similar conversation with a friend of mine and a partner very recently. He's like, listen, man, you're amazing at what you do. And also the level at which you do it is far beyond what most people can comprehend. He's like, I'm going to keep paying you, but dumb it down for me, bro. Like, make it so simple that anyone on my team could do it, even if they don't speak English. And I'm thinking to myself, I really thought I was already doing that. So like, what the heck? How do I go even dumber? And it's not dumbing it down per se, but it's really making sure that your prospects and your clients have a very clear understanding of expectations. Right. And I would be very curious for you. I mean, I know you've worked with some pretty big brands and you've done a lot of stuff in the space. What made you decide to get into e-commerce to begin with?
Well, it was my background before starting the agency. All of my work in marketing was e-commerce. It wasn't, our niche now is beauty and wellness above everything else. My background was not that. So I was like in home goods, in lifestyle brands. So like the niche migrated as we started to get agency friendlies as PENOC was formed, but e-commerce is just my bread and butter. Like it's all I've ever really known.
Interesting. And so your business has essentially progressed, and as you made mistakes and figured out what worked and what didn't, you really were able to dial in on this. And I think this is important because so many people, when they're getting into business, it's kind of like, who do you help? Everyone. You don't want to help everyone, I promise you. So what are like some of the strategies that you use to make sure you're attracting the right clients for your business and then also for your clients in their business?
Yeah, I mean, we now have a director of ops, which is a new hire. She just joined a couple months ago, and we're still trying to finesse even how we show up in the world on socials and in our content, because we kind of pivot between talking about what it's like to run a small agency and then also what our ICP, the beauty VPs of marketing, need to hear about. So I think we're still trying to like land the ship in the lane that works perfectly. But I think obviously talking about the industry, talking about what we know about the industry and kind of like flexing our skills there is really how we're starting to show up. I mean, sales is, I'm a marketer. I didn't grow up the sales ladder. I'm still figuring sales out, unfortunately. So I'd say like 80-90% of our customers still come from referral today, and wonderful, but like hard to scale an agency when you're reliant on those referrals and they come when they come, not when you need them.
Ooh, God is bringing all kinds of downloads today because before I got onto this call, I was having a call with one of our clients, and we were talking about. He's like, "Man, for the last 2.5 years, I've been building my business on referrals, and it's been great. However, it's not predictable. I can't say for sure if I, go out and do X, Y, Z, it's going to lead me to a certain number of clients." And so I really appreciate this conversation because I think that most sales professionals, what's holding them back from that next level is understanding marketing, because when you can generate your own leads, you can write your own paycheck. So,
Yeah.
what is a good way for a sales professional to start leaning in and thinking more on a marketing perspective? And then we'll talk about the vice versa.
Yeah. Well, I think the way I would probably approach it, and my team and I are very much on just the marketing side, and we've had a lot of mistakes on the sales side, let's call it, in terms of like looking for those massive leads. So I think probably bringing the two umbrellas together and making sure whomever's leading both sides of the business are in lockstep around like, okay, what does our marcom strategy look like for the next couple of months, and does the content we're planning to push out actually match with what the salesperson or team is hearing is their pain point and problem. Like, we're not really like, your stuff sucks, so we'll do it better for you and here's how we'll do it better for you. We hate being like that negative about it, but I think there's some way we have to connect what the ground floor is hearing in terms of issues. So for us, we run a paid media agency that does SEO as well. What we hear from brands is they kind of hit a plateau with their agency. No one's being strategic. The client is bringing all the ideas. So we really want to flex into how proactive we are in our approach to the business, how we'll look at their top line, their profitability, everything about their business we can to build strategies that not only make our numbers look great, but help their business. And we haven't like found the perfect talk track in the sales process to land that. But I think those conversations are what we're trying to perfect and push out through marketing to help our sales process.
I love this, and I'm going to share some value with you, and I'm sure we're going to be, connected on a much deeper level after this conversation, because I believe that when you can bring marketing and sales to the table, and they can have a conversation that isn't your lead stuck or you suck at sales, it can truly create an amazing amount of congruence. And when everyone's rowing the boat in the same direction, that's when you see the rocket ship take off. And
Yeah.
so when it comes to the marketing side of things, one of the questions I have for you is, how do you go in and help a business owner figure out what their actual offer is?
Yeah. That's a fair question. I don't know. When we're talking about an e-commerce brand that's produced a line of product, for us, it's usually like skincare and creams to make you look better. Like, that's what we're working with, right? So we will help them unpack, okay, you have an assortment of 50 SKUs. Let's look at your top 10 products. Let's figure out what we can say is our unique selling proposition for each of those and drill into those. So we're generally like taking the best of the best that they have out there, the ones that we know drive first time conversions and highest LTV. And then we're trying to hear what they believe the proof is that that product exists and is better compared to the product on the shelf next to it. And then we'll try it with a couple different lanes of hooks. So we're kind of like you're saying, of like, how do you simplify and distill what this is in like 3 bullet points. It's sort of like, let's attempt 3 different hooks for each of these 10 products, and then we'll learn what's working. We'll learn 7 of the 10 products are like not that great, and we'll just land those top 3. So I think that's sort of how we want to simplify the approach. We're not going to be like, gosh, what's going to be our hook for 50 products, and like, let's go out and run campaigns for every single product. So I think like just asking them lots of questions during the sales process is what's been really meaningful. Like, I have a lot of fractional CMO friendlies, and they're like, the amount of questions you ask in your first call, it's just incredible, because other agencies are like, we can give you the moon, but they haven't asked us anything about our business. So I guess that's one thing I hear we're doing really well.
All right, well, here's where I'm going to challenge you to think about doing the same thing in your sales process. I believe that there's a framework to sales, and I call it the calls framework because I'm very cliche and it's just easier that way. But you confirm the reason you're having the conversation, and you ask very specific and relevant questions. And those pre-qualifying questions are essentially what it sounds to me like you're doing during the onboarding process. So I would
Hmm.
challenge you to think about what questions are you asking during the sales conversation so that the individual you're working with becomes more problem aware and narrows in on the idea that they're making the decision to do this based on their knowledge, not you selling them on why it's a good idea.
Yeah, that's really smart. Yeah.
And so what I think is cool about this for the listener especially is a lot of you probably have 12 or 13 or 15 or 100 different things that you can offer to someone, and all of them have an amazing amount of value. But what you have to
Hmm.
really determine is what is the best bang for the buck right now that this client can get a quick win out of, because
Yeah.
it's those quick wins. As you said, what's that entry product, what's the face cream or the audit that you give someone that shows that quick win, because
Yeah.
that's what gets the buy-in. And so for
Yeah.
you, when you decided, like, what are some of the things that you do, what are those like tips and tricks for the quick media buying wins that you would go and implement in a new business that you start working with?
Yeah, I think the first thing we're going to do is ask them these questions about like their existing ROAS, MER, a lot of the metrics to understand where the business is today so that we can project or like build out an idea of what we think our media mix modeling would be, MMM, for running their business. We haven't got access to their accounts yet. We haven't audited anything. We're just like, hey, we know this space, the beauty industry, quite well. Here's our gut check of like what we would do. Here's who we think we would be targeting. And here are the hooks that we believe each of these targets would want to hear. And so usually, as long as that's not like the opposite of what their business is about, they're like, okay, we're a little locked in with these guys. Let's go ahead, give them access to our accounts so they can do a proper audit and come back with like the 2.0 of what they just presented to us.
What when you're doing an audit, and being an e-commerce business myself, this is always the stuff that I love to nerd out on because it's the data and the numbers that make all the difference. When it comes to media buying, are there any main metrics that you are easily able to identify to say, hey, if you're in this niche and you're not close to this cost per click or, you know, average entry value, like what are those main numbers that you're looking at so that maybe a listener goes, shoot, I don't even know my numbers, I should go check those out?
Yeah, so the main thing that we're focused on for paid marketing with ecom is CAC or ROAS, so customer acquisition cost, or CPA, customer cost per acquisition, and ROAS, return on ad spend. So those are the main things. We'll ask them first where they are. So we've got their baseline, and then we understand their average order value. We will be asking what percentage of revenue comes from ads to see like how healthy their other channels are, and then we can start to say like, cool, now that you've shared all of this, we believe we can get you 15% lift on ROAS or CAC, reduction of CAC, like whatever that is based on brands we work with that are semi similar to you. So that's usually how the conversation goes. But like, beauty is super broad in terms of what can be good. Like we've got brands that are still, really close to their first $1 million ARR. And for them, like a 1.2 is great because they just have to get that awareness and get out for ROAS. So that's basically 20 cents on every dollar spent, right? And then we've got other brands that are like crushing an 11x every single day. So it's still super wide by like where they're going to fall in. So as much as I'd love to say, like, if you're not at a 3, you're in trouble and your business is going to fail, it's super nuanced.
I agree with you. And I asked that question because I wanted to tee you up a little bit and really dive in, because this is what's missing from most sales professionals that want to become solopreneurs or entrepreneurs, and also those entrepreneurs that have gotten into selling a product or service and have no idea what that whole blended scene looks like. Because you could be absolutely crushing it with organic social media and bombing on your paid media, like the ad side, but if you're not able to attribute those acquisitions and track that measurement, you're literally just burning money.
Right.
And what I find so interesting, and what I'd be curious on what you see and where you see the most success, is these ecom brands as they start are the ones that are successful focusing on organic first or paid media first.
Yeah, I would say focusing on organic and earned, so influencers, creator, or PR is where we need to be. Like, I think, well, first of all, brands under like 15K in monthly revenue, probably not the best to think about an agency or anything other than like a freelancer for helping in any of the lanes, quite transparently. And then once you're above that 15K a month in revenue, which can feel like it's never going to happen, right? Like it's crickets when you're just starting.
Yeah.
But once you figure out a solution to getting there with earned and owned, then paid is going to work pretty well for you. Like you've already established a base. We don't like hearing, like I'm doing some fractional work with a brand right now that's like struggling to do 30 orders a day, a month. It's like one a day is something we can't do. So nothing's really working for you. And now you want to like throw on a paid budget of $2,000 a month and like, hope for 10x return. It's like, in what world? So I think those are like, we're really good at finding the baby brands. And so then it's like, do we build up a second arm of our agency to actually do all of the marketing for them? Because until all of the marketing is done well, paid isn't going to perform. And so I think those are the problems we face in our sales process, because I can easily find those small guys because that's what my network is, but the timing's not right. And so taking money from them right now is sort of, well, it would be self-fulfilling, but like it's not going to grow their business. So we would rather say like now's not the right time.
I actually appreciate that you share that, because I think there's a lot of people who are listening that are maybe in sales and they're growing their small business or their agency, and they're like, yeah, I need the business, so like I'm going to take on whatever I can take on. And I understand that there are certain situations where you're like, yeah, I want to help these people and they're willing to pay me to help them, so I'm going to try. And also, I appreciate that you're like, no, it's probably best for you to reinvest this money into this channel, knowing that by providing value on the front end, you're building that long-term relationship. And this kind of ties back to what you were saying about the KPIs and the metrics, right? Someone might be operating at a 0.75 ROAS on the front end, which would be devastating to some businesses, where they're like, no, it's cool because within 90 days, we're going to have turned that to a 5X using this process of upsells, downsells, whatever.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's so interesting where you see so many differences and nuances in how people choose to build their own business, because there's no perfect path. There's no
Right.
absolute like guarantee to be successful. So I would be interested, to continue. I'm excited to watch you guys continue to grow and build your brand. Being an ecom business now, I'm not in the beauty space per se. Maybe I think these hats make me look pretty beautiful, but that's just my own
Agree.
bias, I suppose. Um, so what, like, if someone's thinking about, is it the time to hire on an agency? Is it time to bring someone in house? What are those like big green flags to tell someone like, okay, this is probably a good point for you to make this consideration?
Yeah, I mean, if the person has time to start interviewing agencies and freelancers, like they should take that. They should get as much free information as they can from the experts, but don't drink the Kool-Aid, right? Like I think that's where even me as a marketer, I'm so gullible and people can sell me like anything, and my husband's like, what is
Guilty.
wrong with you?
Yep.
So I think like it's even brands that are just like pre-launch, they're going to launch next month. They don't think they'll be spending for 6 months on ads. I don't think it's a bad idea to reach out to some of the agencies you may know in network or whatever, and just get a litmus test from them of when is the right time. But I think if you don't have bandwidth to do that ASAP, I would focus on figuring out how to grow engagement on social. I think followers are going to be a thing of the past. I think a lot of platforms are thinking about removing that from visibility everywhere. So engagement above followers. I think an email list, so you have your own data, is going to be important. So like figure out how to grow these things that will help long term, and take the small growth to begin with, do it organically the right way, keep your costs down. And then once you feel like you're able to figure out how to convert a person a day, 5 people a day, then you're in a better position to be like, now we need to put some fuel on this fire. Like, I don't think in 2025, starting a business and relying on paid media, unless you've got funding, is a smart way to go about it.
And that is a conversation I'm sure you and I could nerd out on for like the next several hours, because that's a whole different thing in and of itself. But I want to be respectful of your time and the listeners, obviously. Um, what's the best way for me to come and find more of your stuff and the listener to check you out? Because I know you've got a lot more knowledge for us in there, and I want to come and find us. So how do we do that?
Yeah, so our agency is called PENOC. You can find us online at PENNOCK.co. We're not a .com. So that's where you'll find all of the quick links to everything we're doing. We actually have a podcast too, where we're talking to industry experts in beauty. So if anyone's in that vertical, would be fun to check out. And then if you want to email me, I'm just Nikki at PENOC.co, NIKKI.
Hey, that's beautiful. I'm going to make sure all that information is in the show notes. Now, before we leave, I want to ask you one last quick question. Let's say someone's just getting started in sales or marketing today, and they want to be successful. They found this podcast. They're blessed to know that they got your amazing knowledge today. If you can give them one piece of advice to leave with, what would it be?
Get really good at one thing. So don't try to boil the ocean. I think find that one thing you can do super well, sell that, and let it grow from there. We tried to be everything to anyone at the beginning, and it wasn't until we niched to beauty that things really started to pick up for us.
Fantastic advice. I am so grateful for your time. Thank you again for being here today with us, Nikki.
Thanks for having me, Drewby.
Absolutely. If you guys enjoyed the show, I need you to go share it on social media. Tag me, tag Nikki. Send it to someone you know that sucks at sales and marketing because you know they need to get better. And then head over to callthedamnleads.com/podcast. Because if you're here, I'm sure you've got an amazing story to share as well. And I'd love to invite you to be on the show. So callthedamnleads.com/podcast. We'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.